China and the United States just agreed to bring reciprocal tariffs down to 10% for the next 90 days, and it is huge for places like the Dominican Republic and a lot of other Latin American countries. In today's video, I'm going to share 4 specific clips from the press conference to show you what the impact will be on real estate, tourism, and more here in the Dominican Republic. And also, I'll share the blueprint or playbook for the Dominican Republic to really thrive through this tariff trade craziness that's going on right now. This first clip speaks volumes, about 45 seconds, and it's I think the Treasury Secretary, it's just a couple dudes from the US talking about the agreement they made with China, but despite the agreement, they make a really big key point that directly will impact the Dominican Republic. Watch this.
The big takeaways from this weekend: the United States will continue a strategic rebalancing in many areas that were exposed as supply chain weaknesses during COVID, whether it's medicines, whether it's semiconductors, steel, we've identified 5 or 6 strategic industries and supply chain vulnerabilities, and we will continue moving toward U.S. independence or reliable supplies from allies on those.
The Trump administration came in with a policy of, hey, we're going to bring all this manufacturing back to the United States. And they need to, and they will. However, the manufacturing they're going to bring back to the US is going to be higher labor manufacturing around industries he just mentioned, like in particular, the one I talk about all the time on this channel, semiconductor manufacturing. The secretary just said, we're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States or allies, strategic allies that they can trust. DR, Costa Rica, Mexico, Colombia are all in play. Panama, tons of options for the United States. And one of those countries, thanks to a national priority placed on semiconductor manufacturing, thanks to a rare earths agreement that the US and Dominican Republic are signing right now, thanks to the rare earth mine that now has an entity formed around it to specifically do business with the United States, semiconductor manufacturing has a place here in DR. And the impact not just on the wealthy, it'll definitely impact the wealthy, but the middle class and even the lower classes could be absolutely massive. Look, before I go to the second clip, I want to make this point from an infrastructure standpoint with the United States. The US does not have the manufacturing base to turn on whatever they want to whenever they want to, and they need to create that. Here's what I mean. In the Industrial Revolution, we didn't make everything in the United States, but the infrastructure allowed for manufacturing capability beyond what was normally made. So a car factory could be converted to make tanks and so on. The US doesn't have that at the same scale and size and ability as it used to. It relies too much on other countries, and in particular China and Taiwan, to create essential products, or at least pieces of those products. And they just can't have that happen anymore. If you look at the supply chain in the US, the United States government will contract for defense weaponry and other essential items with US-based manufacturers and contractors. And those contractors will contract with US-based manufacturers to build components for that thing, that missile or whatever it might be. But as you go down to the next level of what's being manufactured and the next level, most of that is China, not an ally, despite whatever happened in this press conference. So if you think about it, the US is still going to contract in country with the first, second, maybe third, maybe even fourth level of manufacturing for essential items, defense, medicine, so on and so forth. But the nitty-gritty stuff, the small components like the screw that gets put into the thing, that could be manufactured elsewhere and will be, but they want to make sure it's someplace that's near shore, democratic, friendly, and a trade ally. DR, anyone? Again, all those other countries I mentioned, but I'm in the Dominican Republic, so I'm going to talk about that one. The point is, the US is definitely going to bring manufacturing into its shores and into its borders again, so that it could do what I mentioned. It could always, hey, it's wartime, we can just turn on manufacturing, switch it over to something else and create what we need. But they also want to diversify away from Canada. I meant China. Freudian slip, maybe a little bit. China and places like DR, Latin America, Central America are ideal. All right, I got 2 more for you. The next clip is about the United Kingdom tariff agreement that they made with the United States, at least in principle. I don't know if it's signed yet. But let's see what the dude, the boring guy, I think he's the Treasury Secretary. I don't know. Let's see what he says.
I would add a couple of things, that as our 18 important trading partners come to us, many with very good deals, as the UK, who skipped to the front of the line as our oldest ally, as Ambassador Greer and I look at their proposals, again, to lower tariffs, to lower the non-tariff trade barriers, obviously, UK does not have a currency manipulation problem. And the subsidies for labor and industry, we look at these and I think, how did we get here? How did we get here? And I echo part of what President Trump said, that he doesn't blame the other economies for taking advantage of a fluid, taking advantage of the situation when they were allowed to do it. He blames previous U.S. leaders. So we are just trying to restore a healthy equilibrium that the U.S. economy has become very unbalanced.
This dude needs like an injection of personality. Like whatever the Ozempic is for boredom. Imagine him with his wife. Baby, get ready. I'm coming in hot tonight. I don't know. Such a 12-year-old in my brain. But anyway. All right, so what he just talked about there was the UK trade agreement with the United States. And if you heard him, which you should have because you just listened to it, he's saying, hey, we made it easier for things to transfer between the two countries. We just want to create balance throughout the world. And he talked about the UK jumping to the front of the line as an oldest ally. And if you didn't see the tariff agreement, essentially it's a 10% tariff on goods brought into the United States from the UK. And there's a tariff agreement the other way. But what this does is it gives the Dominican Republic the blueprint for what to do as an ally. There isn't a manipulation problem in DR like there is in other countries around currency, just like the UK. They are an ally. The DR is at a trade deficit with the United States, meaning the US does well in trade with the Dominican Republic. I think I said that right, but you get my point. So this is like, hey, DR, like keep beating the drum, get in front of this government, get your tariff agreement signed. Because what they're essentially signaling is, hey, look, 10%, that's the friendly tariff. For countries that are friendly like UK, DR, 10% is probably gonna be the baseline around the world. The US is going to inject 10% of all trade into their economy, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, and why that's such an important thing that impacts the Dominican Republic in an even more positive way. Just watch for that. But if Dominican Republic gets an agreement done, signs and seals for 10%, and is remaining as competitive as it is with labor rates, I can't speak today, it can negotiate sector-specific deals around textiles, tech, so on, nearshore manufacturing, nearshore shipping to the United States. And I think Abinader, the president, is doing that. He's been very, very open, even some may say bending the knee too much to the United States, but I mean, come on. They're the behemoth, they're the beast. They gotta bend the knee here to the US. You're not gonna do it to China. That would just be dumb. Now, this next clip is the one that just is going to show you how there's going to be an economic boom. And for you Trumpers out there, you're gonna love this because you're gonna think this is all MAGA, baby. For you Trump haters, you're just Trump haters. You're always gonna be there. And I've shared, I am neither. I look at policy and what the impact will be. But before I tell you about that, I wanna tell you about Colchones Naco. I wanna thank Colchones Naco for sponsoring me, this channel, which helps bring all this content to you. If you're looking for a mattress, you need one for your property down here that you're buying, check out colchonesnaco.com and enter code Gruber2025 and you'll get 2 free pillows with your mattress purchase. You can do that online or at any of their stores in country in Santiago, Santo Domingo, and Punta Cana. They sell Sealy, Simmons, Serta, all the S's, plus their own Naco Royal line, which they manufacture right here in Santiago, Dominican Republic. Check out Colchones Naco, and let's get back to the show. All right, this next clip is where the secretary is asked about the impact on the U.S. economy. And I want you to notice how he connects all of these together. Let's check this out.
The Trump economic plan is 3 pieces: trade, tax, and deregulation. Trade has been implemented first, and that process is occurring. We believe that the tax portion is going very well. Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, who I am in constant contact with, believe that midsummer we will pass, as the president likes to call it, his one big beautiful bill, and we believe that that will provide substantial relief for American households. And then deregulation, a hidden and pernicious tax on American households, is regulation. We believe that the last administration added several $1,000s a year to American families' cost, and that we will be not only cutting those substantial, rolling that back, but cutting those substantially.
Part of me wishes Trump sounded a little bit more like this, and then part of me appreciates the way Trump sounds because of the way this guy is. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, if Trump explained it the way he just did, trade, tax, deregulation, three-pronged plan, like, I think most of us would be like, yeah, what's happening makes sense. I think most people, whether you're left or right, agree on a few things. We don't like paying as much as we do in taxes. We know the government wastes money. And if it was just like, hey, look, we feel like there's a better trade agreement we can make with other countries, like, everyone would be on board with that if they sounded like this guy. But at the same time, I'd jab ice picks in my eyes if I had to hear a State of the Union from this dude. Instead, yeah, we're gonna make a lot of money, so much money. Starting to sound pretty good, I guess, the way he is. Oh, there's some orange man bad people out there getting just steamed up on the other end of this camera. Just settle down, Irene. That's the person I picture being Trump bad lady. I don't know. All right, what did he say? Oh, yeah. Tax, trade, and deregulation. So let's look at it this way. This economy down here is fueled by a lot of different things, and semiconductors will be a big component of that, I truly believe, and I can already see rare earth mining, semiconductors, it'll be a play here. But tourism and real estate are still the kings. Let's break this down a little bit. Forget that it's a country. Forget Trump. Let's get out of that because some people get really, they just can't see past it. Let's look at your household. Let's say you were able to generate an additional 10% of income. Whatever you're making, add 10% to it. That's essentially the 10% tariff, which creates a stream of revenue for the United States. Let's just say in your household, you make 100 grand, now you're gonna make 110. And then in your household, you go through expenses and you get rid of a bunch of subscriptions and you cut down some debt and you get rid of some stuff that you're not paying and you eliminate expense. So you're making more and you eliminate expense. And then you find a way, or the government provides a way for you not to pay as much in taxes. So you went from, I make this much top line and I keep this much, this is the amount I keep, to now I make this much top line and I keep, I'm out of camera view, this much. If that happened in your household, you got more discretionary spending money to do a lot of things, to invest, to travel, to buy things, to pay for college, whatever it might be. That's essentially the plan. Now, we'll see if it happens. This is a 90-day pause on China. Who knows what Trump will do in 90 days? China could meet every specific thing that they said they would meet, and Trump could still be like, 50%, there's an imbalance. My Trump impression's getting weak. I gotta figure that out. But you get my point, right? Like if you look at it from just your household perspective, when you have more disposable income, you're going to spend that or invest that disposable income. And that creates opportunity for a place like the Dominican Republic. Where better to spend your money to go away than crystal clear blue water, bright blue skies, white sand, the whole dream that people love to come down to. And once you're here and you're looking around and saying, wait, I can own a piece of this. I can have my own vacation home. Maybe it's something I Airbnb for now and then retire to when I'm 70 years old. More discretionary income provides more opportunity in the Dominican Republic. But there's more. All of that is already on top of two things that are happening in Dominican Republic. One I've covered, rare earths, semiconductors, and this press conference is showing you that the US has interest in finding nearshore partners, nearshore allies as they called it, for some level of manufacturing in the semiconductor industry. Again, doesn't mean it'll be the Dominican Republic, but boy, all the tea leaves and all the factors and variables are leading to that. The rare earth mining, the national priority on semiconductors, the partnership with the University of Cincinnati that the Dominican Republic has forged around semiconductor production. All of that, okay? But the other side is what's already happening here before there's additional consumer spending or additional discretionary income in a US household. And the US is by far most of what fuels here. I mean, hell, if you're Dominican American, you might send money down here in the form of remittances. Even that goes up if you got more money in your pocket. You see? You get it? I'm going Southern right now to make the point. But here's what's happening right now. If you want to look at metrics versus rhetoric in the United States, that already shows strength in this economy thanks to the United States. Despite the ups and downs, and I'll be honest, if you go back and watch some videos of mine, I predicted a dip in real estate, in tourism, and that still may happen, but boy, the indicators don't seem to be showing that, but the rhetoric is. If you look at consumer sentiment in the United States, this is where economists look at different types of surveys to say, what are consumers feeling right now? And many consumers are feeling pinched. They're saying, my consumer confidence is low. I don't want to spend my money. In fact, it's down to like an 86. It's like the lowest rate for consumer confidence or consumer sentiment in a long time. So the media is going to pump that narrative, like consumers are concerned, consumers are scared, yada, yada, yada. We're expecting a worse than average jobs report. We're expecting a worse than average inflation report. It's all going down because consumer sentiment on some poll through some outlet like CNN or Fox or whatever is saying consumers aren't happy. But then we need to look at the actuality. Just look at this, we'll throw it up on screen. Unemployment is flat to down. Wages are rising. Spending is flat to rising. Consumer spending. Travel and leisure is up, including in this country. And when I say up, I mean like this is US consumers are spending more on travel. They're spending the same amount or more in consumer spending. Wages are higher and unemployment is flat in the United States. The only thing that's got a bit of a slowdown is like durable goods where you have to take on debt, like cars and that sort of thing, because interest rates are higher. But when you look at the variables we talked about, forget Trump, just look at the policy. Trade bringing in revenue, taxes being reduced. I gotta get in frame. Reduced. I needed you to, in case you didn't know. And expenses being cut a bit by everybody's favorite, Doge. Everybody love Doge? Here's the funny thing about Doge, as an aside. So many people are getting on Doge like,
well, all they did was cut contracts that were already paid out, so they didn't really cut any spending.
You got to understand how contracts work, whether you're a high-level corporate guy like I was or in government. Contracts are signed and paid. Those contracts have auto-renew clauses and accelerators for inflation or just increased income. So yes, the money was spent on that contract. But if it's not canceled, it'll renew and that spending will continue. So you're looking at future spending being curbed and they're counting it all into one bucket like, oh, we saved $1 billion, trillion, whatever it might be. And I get it because it's like, not yet, but you will. But that's what Doge is doing. They're just getting rid of fluff and garbage so that, yeah, they've been paid, some of these businesses and companies that they've contracted with, but they won't get paid again. But anyway, when you put it all together, you have an economic boom. When you have an economic boom fueled by all of these different things, more discretionary income in the United States household, they spend it elsewhere. And then on top of that, when you see rates cut a quarter, half point, which I think will happen around Q4, now you just light fire on the economy. Again, it could be all go the wrong way, but the economic indicators show a likely boom. Again, you know what I would love, like especially for the anti-Trumpers, because you're the ones that get the most visceral and hateful. Like the pro-Trumpers, they just get weird. The anti-Trumpers really hate me because they think I'm a Trumper. But what are you doing now that the stock market is essentially recovered? I mean, once this trade agreement went through, you saw a pop in all of the indices, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, all of them just popped and got almost back to where it was before Redemption Day or whatever. I would love to know what it looked like. Let me see if I can imagine what it looked like in the household of the anti-Trumper. This is why people think I'm a pro-Trumper, I guess, because I just like laughing at people that lose their freaking mind over stupid shit. Look, the play for all of you is this. Invest now in the Dominican Republic or Panama or wherever you're going, but it's specifically the Dominican Republic is what you're looking at. Down below, I've created a DR real estate buying blueprint. It'll cost you a few bucks. It goes a long way to supporting me to create more content for this channel. So if it's of value to you, I hope you download it, grab it, take a look, and it'll give you everything from the implication of taxes through all the due diligence phases you need to keep in mind when buying property here in the Dominican Republic. And look, you might be curious even about moving here and how do you make money and what do you do to live down there full time? I made that video for you right here. Just tap on it and it'll take you right into that video so you can learn more about how digital nomads make money here in the Dominican Republic. And I'll see you all in the next video.